Okay, welcome back to our next presentation. My name is Jacob Lemke, Healthcare Research Analyst here at ABG. Next up, I have the pleasure to welcome Biovica and their CEO, Anders Rylander.
Thank you very much, Jacob, and hello, everyone. My name, as Jacob said, is Anders Rylander. I am the CEO of Biovica, and just a few words about myself before I go into the presentation about the company. I have a background within management consulting, spent many years within Accenture before starting my entrepreneur journey as the co-founder of Axholmen. And during that time we went into investment. I met the innovator and founder for Biovica. I got very attracted by the great potential of the company, both for the opportunity to improve the lives of cancer patients as well as the commercial potential. So I made an investment, and further down the road, I was offered the opportunity to become the CEO of the company. So I've been the CEO for more than 10 years now, and are still one of the major shareholders of the company. So today I'm going to go through the company and the product, the market potential, the go-to-market plan for our most important market, which is the US market, the team behind it, and also to summarize with some milestones going forward. So Biovica is based on research, or the innovation behind it is based on research from Uppsala University that spans several decades back. We are still based with our headquarters in Uppsala, where we have our R&D and our production facility, although we now have established ourselves in US, in San Diego, where we also are building a lab. We are traded on the first Nasdaq Premier since 2017. And when it comes to regulatory approval, we are approved CE-marked for Europe. And since July, we are also 510 cleared by the FDA for the US market, which I'll come back to. And the product's called DiviTum, stands for dividing tumor. So what we do is, with DiviTum, we can measure cell proliferation from a simple blood test. And as you all know, cancer is defined as uncontrolled cell proliferation. So with our product DiviTum, we can provide very important information both before and during the treatment. It's shown in many clinical trials that the value is prognostic for how the disease will develop. And that is, of course, very important information for the treating physician. Currently, these patients are being monitored by using imaging. Sorry. And currently these patients are being monitored by using imaging, which requires that you take a snapshot both before and a couple of months into treatment. With DiviTum, we can provide several advantages, such as a more convenient way of monitor with a simple blood test, but also quicker feedback. We've shown already 2 weeks into treatment that we can provide feedback if the treatment is efficient or not, which is, of course, very important for both the patient and the treating physician and the healthcare provider, both from treatment outcome, but also for health economic reasons, as these treatments are priced at more than $10,000 per patient. It's, of course, important to spend those money where it's most effective. And also, there are many treatment options, especially within the metastatic breast cancer area, which is the first area we're looking to enter. And if you can discover progression early, you can, of course, switch to an effective treatment. So in July, we received our 510K clearance, which is a really important milestone for us. That allows us to market the product on the US market, being the biggest market for Biovica. And we got a new product code, which we think is really a strength. It allows us to differentiate the product on the US market. That's a new way and more effective way of monitoring these patients. We had really strong data acknowledged by the FDA, especially for the so-called negative predictive value. That means a patient with a low value under the cutoff has a very, very high likelihood, 96.7%, that they will not progress, which means that they're responding well to the treatment within the coming 30 days. And 30 days is also the treatment cycle. Every 30 days you get a no dose of the therapy, and of course it's important to make sure that you're responding well to that therapy before entering the next cycle. And the intended use also covers the target group that we are looking to address, which is patients with hormone-positive metastatic breast cancer. We also have data showing that the patient that has elevated values measured with our assay will likely progress, and we also can discover progression earlier than with imaging. In this trial that was published in a Nature publication done in collaboration with Washington University, in median, the progression was discovered 83 days ahead of imaging that's being used currently. So having clinical data supporting or proving the value of the product is, of course, key for the coming commercialization activities in order to generate demand for the product and clinical uptake, and also for the regulatory approval and inclusion in reimbursement. And this is an area we've been active now for quite some time and has generated very strong results. To date, we have 24 publications, peer-reviewed and publishing in scientific journals, showing the value of DiviTum. The majority is within breast cancer, and if you should summarize the results, you could say it's prognostic in the local stages for recurrence, and in metastatic cancer for progression and overall survival. And when we have had access to multiple samples being able to follow the patient over time, we've shown that we can provide feedback quickly on treatment efficiency, which is the application we are commercializing. On top of that, we also have done health economic publications showing the value of the product, as well as oncologists have created editorial articles summarizing the value within the breast cancer area, where we come out very positive. These collaborations has been done with some of the leading academic institutes in the world who has performed the actual study and is the author of the publication, which is important for us because that's an opportunity for us to get the message out in this important target group of oncologists. Could mention Washington University and the Mayo Clinic in the US, for instance. Both have done several trials, as well as Dana-Farber and Johns Hopkins, all very well known in this area. And in Europe, we worked with Karolinska for several trials. Same thing with the Proto Institute in Italy and the big ABGSC, two breast cancer groups in Europe, covering entire Europe. So very happy for these collaborations, and it makes us the ability to get the word out in our key stakeholder group, you could say. And behind these academic institutes, you have the actual key opinion leaders that sits in the organizations that we would like to impact. Dan Hayes is one good example as the ex-president of ASCO, ASCO being the #1 cancer organization with the biggest yearly meeting that gathers up to 40,000 oncologists. And he was significant in the trial that led to our 510(k) clearance. So we have great collaborations with him. And same thing with Matthew Götz, Mayo Clinic, that also sits in the guidelines committees, both for NCCN and ASCO, which is also important to have the impact to get the inclusion in the guidelines. And of course, having the key opinion leaders that others listen to is essential for us. Market potential. We've broken the market down into 3 tiers initially. First, the #1 launch will be on the US market, followed by Europe, and then in Japan. If you look at US, we have estimated the market size based on the market research we've done that indicates a price level about $400 per test. after we have had several advisory boards with the payers. And also when it comes to the usage, which is now covered by our intended use with the serial testing up to about monthly initially and quarterly after the first 6 months, times the number of patients living with this disease. In Europe, we're focusing on the top 5 and the Nordics. Significant potential there as well, although slightly lower than US due to lower price levels. And the third market is the Japanese market, where the price levels is somewhere in between US and Europe, according to our market research. So this boils down to about $500 million per year in market potential for this first application, metastatic breast cancer. But we have the ambition to widen the use outside of the metastatic breast cancer, and the first step then would be locally advanced, as the same clinical unmet need exists there when patients need to be monitored, and the treatments that we have such great results with are moving into earlier phases of breast cancer. And outside of breast cancer, we believe we have some great opportunity in metastatic melanoma, for instance, where the treatments are patients are being treated with immunotherapies, and we have, together with Karolinska, shown great results in that area as well. Outside of another area we are also looking into and are active within are pharma collaborations, which we are looking to expand. Currently, we're doing collaborations with pharma when they're developing new therapies within cancer. We've been strong also here in the CDK area, where the type of treatments that are being used within breast cancer. We have now currently 9 agreements on different levels of commitments, the highest level being master services agreement, where we do several projects together with pharma in order to support them developing new therapies. This is a great way for us to reach out to patients and develop new products quickly and with support, financial support from pharma. So we're looking to expand this, and we also have people with great experience within this area within the organization. So if you look at the US specifically and the plan to enter the US market, we have established ourselves in San Diego, and a key part of that strategy is to offer the product from our own Biovica operated lab. There are several advantages, and there are also several success stories of companies within diagnostics who has followed this path, and it's an opportunity that exists in the US that we would like to take advantage of. That allows us to have a direct contact with some of the most important key stakeholders, such as the patients and the physician and the hospitals, but also the payers and the reimbursement system, so we can navigate our way through to that. This also allows us to cover the entire country with a smart logistics solution. We can serve the entire US from our San Diego lab. More long term, this will also give us a lot of important data, both commercial, and that means that we can improve our targeting and sales process, but also patient information that, in combination with the sample biobank that we will build up with the informed consent, that could be used to more quickly develop new product to meet new unmet clinical needs that we can define. So this strategy has a lot of advantages, and the status right now is that we have established the lab. We have the staff in place, including the medical director, which is essential for being able to serve the market. And the equipment and the quality system is in place, and we are now validating the product. We'll be submitting our application soon, and within 4 to 6 weeks, we expect an approval for CLIA certification. We will also build up our sales team. We will start small with a number of sales rep of 5, but with smart targeting especially the ones that prescribes the largest volumes of these treatments that we are looking to monitor. We can, with a small team of 5, cover 10% of the oncologists, but 50% of the prescriptions of these CDK4/6 inhibitors And we also believe that way we'll reach the most patients that will have benefits of our product. We'll also utilize the fact that we have a strong network with NCI and NCCN designated cancer centers. There's 71 of them in the US, and you could say that's the top tier of cancer centers that others follow. And those are the ones that we have been collaborating with in our clinical study program. And of course, that will be the first customers to target going forward as well. Reimbursement strategy is, of course, a key success factor on the US market. We are also, here's where we really will benefit from the investments we've done in our clinical documentation. Initially, we will do, as you have to do, there's a defined price for that as well. When you're not included in the reimbursement system yet, you start with a miscellaneous code, and then you submit claims with a medical necessity support. That's basically a summary of the clinical data supporting the value of the product. So here's where that data is important. In parallel with that, we will also start working with getting coverage, coding and coverage into the system. And the most important area for us there is the 50% that is covered by Medicare. In our patient population, quite a lot of them are covered by Medicare due to the age of these patients that get metastatic breast cancer. In parallel, we'll also work with the private system, and we will initially, as I told you, also focus on the relationships that we already have in order to establish agreements so we can do direct bill and use them as third-party references, which is the middle sector. We expect that to be about 25% of the sales or of the market. And then the last one is the private insurance company that we will get coverage over time. And one important milestone in order to achieve that is to get guideline inclusions, which we also will submit and work as soon as we're on the market. In order to do this, you need to have a strong team, and we have put that in place. If you start with the US organization, we have Warren Cresswell that has experience both from Dako, where he was responsible for commercial areas with US and other territories. Dako was active in biomarker testing and oncology, so it fits very well with what we're about to do here. He also has experience from Prometheus, a Nestlé-owned company that was active both in diagnostics and therapies, and were able to develop that successfully and divested. I was in the GI field, and they operated a CLIA lab, so also very relevant and similar experience. He has recruited Ken Richards, who has a background as sales director and managing a successful sales teams, and he has the same role here at Biovica. Henrik Winter could also be mentioned. He's the one that is behind our pharma collaboration, and he has had similar roles at both Immunovia and Dako, where he successfully developed their companion diagnostics area. Same thing goes with the board of directors. Lars Holmqvist, the chairman, active in diagnostics since many years. Quite a few success stories, including Dako, that was acquired by Agilent. He also is part of the board of directors for Tecan, the big instrument manufacturer within diagnostics, for instance. Could also mention Marie-Louise, an oncologist from within the breast cancer area that also now is in the pharma industry and was part of the Novartis team that developed the CDK4/6 within the metastatic breast cancer area. So she has very relevant experience. So to sum it up, we have a very, very unique and interesting product that can meet a clinical unmet need, a very important one for both patients and healthcare providers. This is something that also has been acknowledged by some of the leading key opinion leaders within this field, and together with them, we performed several collaboration and clinical trials that has generated data, evidence of the value of the product, and publications proving the value. That will be the foundation for the commercialization activities and to generate demand and clinical uptake and inclusion in the reimbursement system. Our first application is within metastatic breast cancer on the US market. We already have the 510K, and we're now continuing with our preparations. The CLIA lab will be an important milestone before the launch of the product on the US market before end of this year. And milestone coming the years to come is the application for PLA code as the first step to get into Medicare coverage, which we expect during 2024. And by 25, 3 years after the launch of the product, we expect to have realized 15% of that market potential of the product in terms of revenue. And when it comes to Europe, we will launch in the first country starting early next year through a partner. So we're in preparations for that as well. Yeah, to sum it up, we have a really important product that meets an important need for patients and for healthcare providers. And I'm convinced that that will also generate value for our shareholders. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. Let's move on to the questions. And I mean, if we start on the 510K clearance and the process to move on to get the test commercially available, you mentioned the certification of the lab. Is there anything else that you're working on, or any other milestones that you'll have to achieve before you can start to sell the test?
Yeah, that's the recruitment of the sales team. We have been put that on hold. We have a strong network within that area from the past, but now with the 510K clearance, that because we don't have salespeople if you're not allowed to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So putting that team in place, that's an important milestone to look out for as well. Yeah. That's and then we will also recruit the billing market access function. So we'll have distributed sales organization and the central billing and reimbursement organization.
Okay, and I think you mentioned the CLIA lab where you expect to get the certification in 4 to 6 weeks. Can you just tell us about that process?
Yeah. So we're actually we're in the end of the preparing the application. So what you need to have several things in place. You need to have the facility. You need to have the instrument, including the serial numbers, because that's part of the application. You need to have the staff with the right experience documented, and you need to have the quality system, and you need to have perform tests with the test showing the data. Similar to the performance part of a 510K application, but yeah, it's less. The 510K is a lot more effort, so it's more straightforward and less work. And also, the review process is a lot less. So we're about to finish the last performance studies and put the application. Finalize that and submit it by end of this month is our ambition. Okay,
and during your presentation here, you mentioned the market potential, and just based on the approval or the clearance you got from the FDA, are you now able to address the entire?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when we did the market potential research, you do a lot of assumptions, and two key assumptions was the patient population, and that was verified, hormone positive metastatic breast cancer. And the other key assumption was the testing schedule, that serial testing with the same type of frequency that we have assumed. And that was also part of the intended use. So we're very happy for that. But it's also, it makes sense because we had data supporting that.
Okay, and I think we have time for one last question, and that was just on the European market, where I heard you mention that you were going to launch with a partner. Can you just tell us about what kind of partner and where you are in that process?
So we've been looking for partner. We have different strategy per market in Europe, because it's the same regulatory approval, but it's different reimbursement system and go-to-market processes. So we won't invest in building our own organization in all those markets like we do in US. So in the first market will be with a partner, and there are some key parameters that we look into when selecting a partner, that they have the network and the history within the oncology area, being able to address the oncologists, and to be able to provide lab services to provide the analysis. Those are two.
Okay, I think we'll stop here. So I'd like to thank you for participating.
Thank you.